Hi everyone, it's Victor speaking. And I know this week I haven't posted a weekly video just yet, but one of the reasons why, because the major topic of this week is the Saturn-Uranus square and being opposed, Saturn being opposed by Mars. So basically we are creating a T-square. And this is quite a volatile T-square. So I wanted to break it down a little bit for you, what it might be indicating. Now, before we actually jump into this video, I want to speak to you about what a T-square is. So at the beginning of the video, I'm going to give you a general description of what a T-square indicates, a little bit of a teaching, and then at the second part of the video, I'm going to break down this T-square for you. So when it comes to a T-square, so basically, as I mentioned, we have got three planets in aspect to each other. We've got an opposition going on between two planets. In the current situation, that's between Saturn and Mars. And both planets are squaring a third planet. And this week, that's going to be Uranus. So to understand the T-square, I want to start a little bit with what conjunction is. So basically, a conjunction is a start of a new cycle. And then when it gets to having a square element, there is a crisis point in the cycle somewhere. So there is a tension created. And then the opposition is the culmination of the cycle. So here you can see when we talk about a T-square, then it is made up with an opposition and two squares. Now, a T-square can include planets, angles, and points as well in your chart. This is a very domineering aspect or chart configuration, because basically we are talking about three planets which potentially rules half of your chart. So each planet ruling two houses. So it's very potential that it's going to be ruling 6 houses in your chart. So in order for us to understand the T-square, we want to break it down a little bit more. So as I said, there are two squares and one opposition included here. So what is a square actually? So imagine that we have got a stage that requires action, motivation, effort. Something we have to fix and master. So, but usually these two planetary energies have got a friction, a tension going on in between them. So a square can be associated with Marsian energies, which pretty much says, imagine that Mars is all about going to the gym, right? So Mars pretty much says that no pain, no gain, right? So it's all about proving ourselves, make things happen, turning lemons into lemonade. That's what really the square talks about. So we're going to have to make those two planetary energies to become friends if we want them to work well with each other. Now, if we want to be looking at what an opposition is like a seesaw energy. So something which requires a solution, it's something which is opposite of who we are. So we've got a couple of choices here. We're going to unite, we're going to balance, or we're just going to move away from a situation. But of course, if we move away from it, it might leave a bittersweet taste as well, right? So if we do one of the planets of the scale, we meet the other one somehow from others. So it is all about polarization. Usually the opposition describes relationship matters, and both planets have got different agenda going on. They can't see each other's point of view. So kind of like a couple who is going through a breakup, for instance, but they still live together. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit of a challenge for them because they show some type of hatred towards each other. So opposition always has got an Aries and the Libra axis. So we tend to be projecting with opposition. So we project in our subconscious or unconscious material onto others. But this is usually talking about what we project onto others that kind of reflect on us as well. So traditionally speaking, oppositions are resolved through finding balance, peacemaking, harmony. Oppositions require give and take, compromises, fairness, and an element of diplomacy as well. Now, these are the elements of the T-square. So when we want to be breaking a T-square down, we always have to start with the oppositions, because that's where we require, as I said, compromising. And then once we have managed to do that, then we can start working with the T-square, which actually has got a focal point, and that's what we're going to call as an apex planet. And the focal point is the planet, which is being squared by the other two. So in our case this week, the focal planet of the chart is actually Uranus. So it kind of brings a little bit of a solution to us, but it acts a little bit like a compulsive nature. It has got a little bit of a dictator type of energy to it. So if I wanted to describe that with a tarot card, then I would say the T-square is something like the Chariot. So that's number 7 in the tarot deck. And then if you don't know how the card looks like, then imagine we've got a chariot being pulled by a white and the black horse. And then we've got this champion sitting on the chariot and then trying to go forward. And of course, in order for him to go smoothly ahead, the two horses need to pull the chariot with similar strength. So if you have got a T-square in your chart, typically it describes main life themes in your life. They dominate the chart. They can actually overshadow other parts of the chart as well. It's very energetic. It wants to surpass ourselves. It wants to grow at any cost. And some of the T-squares are actually very explosive. For instance, if there is Uranus, Mars, or Pluto involved. Now, this week, we have got both Uranus and Mars involved. So basically, we can call this week as a very explosive energy. And with the T-square, we tend to be getting pulled into too many different directions. There is kind of like that sizzle and fizzle type of energy to it. The positive news about T-squares, actually, that this is often found in CEOs, leaders, and people having power at hand chart. So as I said, the apex planet is very important here. That's a driving planet, but we should not always focus on that. We need to resolve the opposition first. Now, when it comes to T-square, it's also very important to look at the modality. So we've got 3 modes. So we've got the cardinal, the fixed, and the mutable. So the cardinal is very action-orientated. It creates conflicts. It has got extreme energies. It likes conflict, let's put it that way. The fixed is actually holding on to something. It's resisting change, tends to get stuck as well. And it's all about sustained and stubborn energies. And the mutable one is constantly want to spread news, being in process, juggling skills, searching, learning. It kind of avoids conflicts, avoids commitment and responsibility as well. So looking at the 3 types of T-squares just very briefly. So a cardinal T-square is when the planets are in Aries, Cancer, Libra, or Capricorn, and this is the most ambitious one. It is often good for those people to start their own business and to drive the energy constructively. Cardinal signs tend to initiate new activities and act immediately. And they often move towards achievement and are good at getting things started. Now, this week, we actually have got a cardinal T-square. So it is all about pushing the energies forward. If you have got a fixed T-square, meaning that the planets are in the sign of Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, or Aquarius, Usually these are driven by intensity, focus, and willpower. These type of people are less likely to give up and keep going until they reach their goal. And when it comes to changing circumstances, well, fixed signs tend to persist in acting according pre-established patterns. The good news about the fixed T-square is that it has got plenty of strength, focus, but from a negative perspective, it's a very inflexible and it's very stubborn as well. And last but not least, we've got the mutable T-square, meaning that your planets are in Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, or Pisces. These are more suited to the learning environment. They've got great adaptability going on, creativity, and their drive is to learn about their environment. So mutable T-square tend to act to new situations by being flexible, but they can also be sometimes too curious and too changeable as well. So that's a very short and brief approach of what a T-square is. So let's just have a look at what we have got this week. So as I said, Saturn and Mars are going to be opposing each other, and that's going to start on the 1st of July. And then 3 days later, actually, so that's the opposition time, Mars and Saturn will oppose. And then 3 days later, Mars will also square Uranus as well. So that Saturn-Uranus square really gets activated here. So one thing you might want to be paying attention to is that your anger level can rise significantly. You might feel that the whole world is somehow against you. You might not want to take no for an answer. And when Mars is going to be meeting Uranus, that's very much about when you kind of like with madness, you try to push every single button, for instance, on the computer. So you get agitated, you get very frustrated. So this T-square very much talks about some sudden changes, which probably you have started feeling already that it's been around the corner. You kind of feel that I want to be acting, even though you know that there are blockages going on, there are difficulties around us, but that Mars wants to push forward. And that's what Mars likes doing the most, right? It has got a purpose to get out of bed every single morning. If I wanted to describe that Mars, coming up with a car example, that's going to be the gas pedal. So Mars wants to go ahead very fast. And of course, it's in the sign of Leo as well, so it does it with pride. Now, Saturn comes around who says, oh, hold on a minute. We need to push the brake because we need to be taking some calculated risks. So it's like another example how to imagine the Mars and Saturn opposition is that you go to the gym, Mars, and you want to be in shape within seconds. But Saturn says you cannot cut corners. Everything has got its own time. So Mars obviously triggers everything in the sign of Leo with confidence and inspires actions. And Saturn actually demands a very careful planning before any action is taken. So, and Saturn is in rulership. Do not forget that for a second either. So that means that Saturn is going to slow your ambitions down a little bit. It talks about measured timelines, right? So an opposition is always when the two planets are fighting. However, from a positive note, I would like to mention that Mars opposition to Saturn is like a long distance runner. So there are goodies about that constellation, because imagine that Mars is running and then Saturn is the bumpy road, right? So that's kind of like the laying police, we call it in my language, on the streets, on the road. So you are forced to slow down a little bit because there is a little bit of a danger ahead of you, and you cannot drive the car 100 miles an hour in a inhibited area, right? So this is how I would kind of describe this energy. And of course, Mars is all about the road rage. So it gets very frustrated. It gets pressurized by all those blockages and obstacles which is ahead of it. So Mars wants to push forward, and then Saturn says, no, we need to be planning for our long-term goals. So it's all about taking care of ourselves and yeah, taking your time a little bit. And Saturn says, no, you can't gain if you don't put the work into it. So effort is required here. So that's very, very important. So it is a stormy aspect. It is all about DIY projects and maintenance. So it's like driving a car, and then I'm going to be testing that, and then I'm going to test again and again and again. So that's definitely one of the danger of that. And Mars wants to say yes to everything, and Saturn says, no, we cannot jam our schedule. So at this rate, if we go forward, we're going to burn out. So, and then nothing gets done. So, you know, so it is definitely a very, very tough constellation, I would say. Now, but let's just dive into it a little bit more. So, as I said, Mars, which wants to go forward, and it's hot-headed, it doesn't want to listen to anyone, but Saturn is very demanding. And that's kind of like the somehow kind of like an authority figure, right? So if you are involved in some type of unrealistic situation, then Saturn will give you limits, priorities, and it talks about time management. And Mars will push you to achieve your targets. And eventually, because you slowed down a little bit, you took a moment to look around, you're gonna get there faster. So that's the best advice I can really give you here. So for instance, if if you are postponing things, or you delaying appointments, or you are delaying to make engagements, or you keep looking for better times, then actually Saturn might say to you that no more delays. It can't happen no longer because it is high time to do some type of action. So it really depends on what is going on in your life at the moment. So Mars can go two ways. It pushes itself, or it becomes a little bit lazy in the sign of Leo, because Leo is a slow burner. So it starts with a huge amount of energy, and then it gets tired easily. And Saturn might be saying that, no, hold on a minute. You promised, so we need to go ahead with that. But Saturn and Mars are in opposition, so that's the completion cycle. So it's worth having a look at what happened approximately 2 years ago when the Saturn and Mars opposition happened, because we are coming to a kind of a new cycle between them too, or it is a completion cycle. It gets highlighted very strongly. So look at that in your life, what was going on approximately about 2 years ago, because it's a completion cycle. Maybe something you started 2019, and it's time to catch up on what's left hanging around, or finalize things. So yes, that's pretty much one side of the opposition between Saturn and Mars. Now, as I said, what's also happening this time around, and these two planets will be squaring Uranus as well at the same time. And Uranus is, as I mentioned at the beginning, it's the apex planet. So it kind of like talks about the dictator role. And Uranus is all about all about freedom and all about innovation, and it wants to go kind of quite fast. So Mars wants to go fast, Uranus wants to go fast, Saturn is insisting on going slow because it says we have got a long way ahead of us. And Mars in Leo is full of confidence, and it's like a proud and brave warrior, and it's ready to fight, and it knows kind of that I'm the best I can achieve at the moment, whatever we want. And then Uranus kind of gives that restless energy to Mars. And Uranus says, oh yeah, of course you can build those big muscles what you want, right? And at the same time, I would like to mention that we have got this Mars-Saturn opposition, and we have got also the last quarter moon happening, and moon is in the sign of Aries, and that's very hot-blooded. So the emotions could be boiling, our reactions could be like hair, like pulling out our hair, or, you know, so there is plenty of volatile energy. There is plenty of like shouting energy on it. We can lose our temper. We can easily tell people the wrong thing. We can actually kind of scar them for life. So Saturn, you must listen to Saturn this time around. You need to slow down a little bit. It is all about long-term planning. Even if you are infuriated, you just need to stop for a second and think about it. Now, this T-square is going to get affected or triggered again by Venus as well a week later. So it's not just one aspect we want to be watching out, but actually two of them. But I'm going to speak about that Venus aspect a little bit later on. I'm going to make a Venus and the Mars conjunction because they are starting also a new cycle as well. So a couple of themes which I would like you to, because I like speaking about investments, I think this could be a volatile period in the stock market. Even though this transit lasts for about 10 days, so starting on the 1st of July, probably we can feel it till the 11th very strongly. But to be frank, I would say, in my opinion, we're going to feel this in the next 4 to 6 months, because this Mars is also going to be triggering this square one more time in about beginning of next year. So to be frank, this restless, frustrated energy, in my opinion, is going to be around for the next 6 months. So I hope this video helps you to understand what this T-square could be talking about. Now, I don't want to be going into a lot deeper, especially with the Saturn-Uranus square, because I made a few videos about that. So if you are interested about it, then I recommend listening back to it. But maybe what we can actually do, just very briefly, we might want to be just coming up with some keywords when it comes to the two like the Saturnian Uranian energies, right? Because they are actually very interesting. So when we look at Saturn, it is all about past. Uranus is all about the future. So of course there is a little bit of a clashing going on there. Now, the next criteria which I would mention here is that Saturn is all about, you know, the tested things. So why would I try something new when the old one just works extremely well? And Uranus wants to innovate. So another frustration between those two. Saturn is all about slowly climbing the mountain, and Uranus wants to shoot like a rocket. Saturn is all about the long-term goals, and Uranus wants to think outside of the box. Saturn wants to maintain shapes and forms. and Uranus kind of smashes whatever is crystallized. Saturn is very predictable, Uranus is very unpredictable. Saturn sticks to what works, Uranus is very innovative. Saturn is conservative, Uranus is radical. Saturn focuses on the results, Uranus focuses on society and change. Saturn plays safe, Uranus lives on the edges. Saturn changes through self-discipline and sweat. Uranus changes through information. Saturn is traditional, Uranus is eccentric. Saturn wants to fit in. It wants to become the best of the best. And Uranus says, oh, I don't give a damn. I'm unique and I'm individual. So for me, for these two to work together, which is, you know, we've got a self-reliant planet and we've got an independent planet. Together, these two can become very self-motivated if they start working together. Saturn is realistic and rational. Uranus is detached and clear-headed. So if we are not in denial, this energy works quite nicely. Saturn is historical. Uranus is futuristic. So past and future together. So therefore, I believe that one of the astrological, one of the indications for someone to become astrologer is a Saturn-Uranus aspect actually in the chart, especially a conjunction. Saturn is analytical, Uranus is inventive. So these two can be very brainy. And it is these two are very much able to create. Saturn is old, Uranus is ahead of time. So it's like listening to the wise elders. So, I just wanted to kind of put you a little bit of a list about, you know, the feature of Saturn and Uranus square, because this is getting triggered by Mars this time around. And Mars is definitely getting along with Uranus a lot more. So let's not expect, let's hope it's not going to happen, but something around volcano eruptions, something about riots or demonstrations, or something blows up, blows out of the proportion as well. All these type of volatile energies are very possible in the next 1.5 months, unfortunately. Yes. So I hope this video helps to break down this T-square for you. Let me know if you have got any T-square in your personal chart. That might be quite exciting to maybe look at. Thank you, everyone, and have a blessed evening, because it's evening here. Take care. Bye-bye.